Just pause for a moment and think. If power is in your hands, and in front of you stands a person who is weak, helpless, and whose life depends on your decision, then in that moment, your true character is revealed. Because power does not make a person great. Power only exposes the human or the beast that is hidden inside a person. History is witness. Some people, after gaining power, started thinking of themselves as God, and some people, after gaining power, started remembering God. Today's video is not about the history of chains. Today's discussion is not about blood, whips, and markets. Today, we will talk about the treatment of slaves. Because the most horrifying side of slavery was not that a person was imprisoned, but that they were made to stop being seen as human. But the question is, was the sky silent? Had God forgotten the weak? Had the heavenly books closed their eyes on the cruelty of the powerful? No. The four heavenly books, Quran, Torah, Psalms, and Gospel, speak with one voice. They do not support the system of slavery. They do not make intoxication with power sacred. They do not put a human under another human. They say one thing: a slave is also a human. Today, through the light of these books, we will know what power means in the eyes of God, what justice is, and what the real value of humanity is. This video is not history. It is a test of conscience. What is slavery? Slavery is not just the name of chains. Slavery is not just the story of iron shackles, tied hands, or markets where humans were auctioned. Slavery, in reality, is the misuse of power. When a person values their authority more than another person's dignity, when power overcomes justice, and when the voice of the weak is drowned in the noise of the powerful, that very moment gives birth to slavery. If we open the pages of history, we find such people who were bought, sold, whose mothers were taken away, whose children were separated, and whose screams were buried in the dust of the earth. But the greatest cruelty of slavery was not that the body was imprisoned, it was that humanity itself was imprisoned. The slave was recognized not by name but by price, guided not by heart, but by the owner's command. Now the question is, was the sky silent? Did God, after seeing all this, close his eyes? Were the heavenly books in favor of the powerful and against the weak? No. Every heavenly book was revealed with a clear principle. Power must obey morality. Heavenly teachings do not give power a license to oppress. They make authority a test. They say, if power is in your hands, your responsibility grows even more. In the darkness of slavery, the heavenly books descended as lamps, so that humans remember other humans. From here, the true story of humanity begins. The Quran, first of all, makes a human a human. It teaches the value of a person before considering color, race, power, or status. Allah Almighty says, "Worship Allah and do not associate anyone with Him, and do good to your parents, relatives, orphans, the poor, and those in your possession." This is not an ordinary advice, this is a silent revolution. Because in this one verse, the Quran placed the slave on the same level as parents, orphans, and the poor. These are the very people whose rights are considered most sacred. And the Quran says, treat those under your control the same way. This declaration came at a time when a slave was considered an object, when they had no voice, no value, and no rights. Then, the Quran further clarifies, Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. This means, whether slave or free, every human has a limit, and breaking that limit is against the law of Allah. Tiring a slave, breaking their life, or turning them into a merciless machine is oppression in the eyes of the Quran. And then, there is the saying of the Prophet that changed the course of history. Your servant is your brother. This is not just a hadith. It was a declaration of humanity. For the first time in the history of the world, a slave was called a brother. This is the message of the Quran. Power does not make you a ruler, it makes you responsible. The Torah does not accept slavery as a system meant to last forever. Rather, it sees it as a test. This test is not for the slave, it is for the person who holds power. The message of the Torah is very clear. If authority is in your hands, it is your duty to use that authority with justice. That is why the Torah says, "Pay the worker their wages on the same day, do not delay it." This command is not just about a few coins or wages, it is a declaration of human dignity. Because delaying wages is not just stealing time, it is insulting the patience of the weak, their hard work, and their honor. The Torah knows that the greatest weapon of the powerful is delay and negligence, and that is why it calls it a sin. But the Torah does not stop here. At another place, it gives a principle that shakes the foundations of slavery. If a slave is oppressed, if they are humiliated, if their humanity is crushed, then they must be set free. This means oppression does not justify slavery. Oppression ends slavery. This is not a small matter. This is a revolutionary declaration. This declaration says, power is not a right. It is a responsibility. And when responsibility turns into oppression, authority is taken away. This is the message of the Torah. No system is sacred without justice. Psalms is less a book of law and more the voice of the heart. It does not command a person, it makes a person look inside themselves. Psalms knows that if the heart is not right, even the law can become a weapon of oppression. That is why Psalm says, God shows mercy to those who show mercy. This is not just a promise, it is a mirror. This mirror shows a person that the one who does not show mercy to others moves away from the mercy of God themselves. In another place, Psalm says something that shakes the heart. The one who fears God does not commit oppression. This fear is not of punishment. This fear is of accountability. Because a person who truly believes in God cannot crush a weak human being. Psalms teaches us that showing mercy to a slave is not a favor, it is a condition of being human. The person who humiliates a slave does not just break a human, they kill humanity within themselves. According to Psalms, true worship is not in long prayers, it is in a soft heart. A heart that is not drunk with power, a heart that does not remain silent when it sees the weak. Psalms declares that society does not change by law, it changes by conscience. And when the heart is reformed, the chains begin to break by themselves. This is the message of Psalms. Before you free a human, free the heart. In the Gospel, slavery is not a matter of law. Here the slave enters the circle of love. The message of Jesus speaks straight to the heart. He says, "Do to others as you would have them do to you." This is not just a sentence, it is an earthquake. This sentence shakes the throne of power, because if the master can imagine themselves becoming a slave, then slavery dies on its own. The Gospel teaches us that a person is measured not by rank, but by heart. That is why the Gospel says, "Do not threaten your servants, because you all serve the same God." This declaration is the final blow to the pride of power. Here, the wall between master and slave falls down, and only humanity remains. According to the Gospel, true worship is not about giving orders, it is about spreading love. The person who threatens a weak person reveals their own lie in the name of God. The message of Jesus is not to merely tolerate the slave, it is to see the slave as your equal. That is why in the Gospel power becomes silent, and love begins to speak. Here slavery is broken not by law, but by love. And when love comes, chains no longer need a lock. The four holy books speak across times, languages, and nations, but the voice is one. This voice declares that a slave is not a thing, not property, not a shadow, but a full human being. The Quran says the slave is your brother. The Torah says oppression gives birth to freedom. The Psalms say mercy keeps the heart alive. And the Gospel says love makes power meaningless. The difference is only in words. The message is one. The four books do not stay silent before oppression. They put chains of morality on power and tell us that the one with authority must have the fear of God in their heart. These books do not justify the system of slavery. They place humanity at the center. They declare, a slave is a human, oppression is a sin, justice is a duty, mercy is worship, and power is only a test in which some people become Pharaoh and some become Moses. Some people, after gaining power, crush humans, and some, after gaining power, lift humans. The holy books teach us that true greatness is not in giving orders, but in doing justice. True worship is not only in prostration, but in protecting the weak. And true success is not measured by how powerful you were, but by whom you treated as human when you had power. This is the shared message of the 4 holy books. Today, slavery is not locked in books. It is alive in our homes, factories, and streets. Only the names have changed. Today, a slave is called a domestic worker, a laborer, a vulnerable employee. But the question is, has the treatment also changed? Today, is the tone of speaking to them gentle? Is their fatigue seen as human fatigue? Or does power still speak while humans remain silent? The holy books do not only tell us history, they show us a mirror. If we follow the Quran, we must remember that those under our control must be treated with kindness. If we follow the Torah, we must understand that delaying wages is not just oppression, it is a war against God. If we follow the Psalms, we must examine our hearts, because a hard heart is empty of mercy. And if we follow the Gospel, we must ask ourselves, do we want for others what we want for ourselves? Today, slavery does not move with whips, it moves with tone. Today, chains are not made of iron, but of compulsion. Today, humans are not beaten, they are ignored. But the holy books do not allow this. They demand not silent faith, but living action. If we truly believe in God, we must also believe in humans, because a person who crushes the weak performs only ritual in worship. Today, the choice is in our hands. We can choose to gain power and become Pharaoh, or to gain power and become human. The holy books are still speaking. The only question is, are we listening? And if we are listening, then we must change our behavior. Because faith is not recognized by words, it is recognized by actions. Remember, freeing a slave is surely a good deed, but treating a slave well is a great act of worship. Because freedom sometimes comes only from breaking chains, but respect comes only from behavior. The history of the world is full of people who broke chains, but could not change hearts. And history also remembers those people who, despite having power, treated humans as humans. Today, each one of us is powerful in some way. Some have the power of wealth, some have the power of position, some have the power of speech, and some have the power of silence. And this very silence often becomes the greatest companion of oppression. When we stay quiet while seeing a weak person humiliated, when we ignore the work of a laborer, when we treat a domestic worker as a machine for work instead of a human, we are not just spectators, we become participants. The holy books teach us this lesson. The path to God goes through the heart of a human. The person who does not see the tears of the weak is only repeating words in worship, and the person who respects the weak becomes a prayer without saying a word. This video is not just for watching, it is an invitation to change yourself. If this message touched your heart, if it made you pause for even a moment, then spread it forward. Because goodness lives only when it is shared. And remember, the world does not need more powerful people. It needs more merciful humans. If this video has sparked even the slightest movement in your heart, if even one sentence has made you pause and think deeply, then understand that this video has done its work. Now, the responsibility moves to you. First of all, hit the like button, because a like is not just a button, it is a testimony, a symbol that humanity is still alive, that compassion still exists, and that hearts still care. Next, subscribe to this channel so that this voice, this important message, does not stop here. Because a channel becomes truly powerful only when it has people behind it who think, reflect, and act. And now comes the most important step, the step that turns thought into action. Write in the comment section, I will remain human even after gaining power, or I will show mercy to the weak. Because when you write these words, they are no longer just comments. They become a promise a sacred promise you make to yourself. Your single comment can reach the heart of another person. Your single word can give courage to someone oppressed, and your single voice can break the chains of silence. Remember, silent people do not change the world. Those who raise their voices do. So today, do not remain a spectator. Become part of this story. Become part of this movement. Become the change. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and in the comment declare, what do you want to become when you gain power? What kind of human do you want to be? Because this channel does not just make videos. It creates humans. It creates thinkers. It creates doers. It creates people who care, who act, who speak, and who live with responsibility. Remember always, humanity is the greatest act of worship, and today, your choice matters. So speak up, share this message, take action, and show that humanity is alive in your heart.